Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Still back here. Fuego!
That's right, still doing quarantine reviews, maintaining our social distancing, but we are here to talk about a series that has been out for quite a while, and it's not necessarily one that people would jump to automatically considering horror. However, having watched it, I definitely think it fits the bill. I initially went into this thinking it was going to be a documentary telling of this story, but in actuality, it was a dramatic, representation of it, a reenactment of everything that went on. And we are here to talk about HBO's groundbreaking series, Chernobyl. And this was a tough watch. So Fuego watched it before me. I'm going to let him talk first, give his overall thoughts. Then we'll talk about the story, the acting, of course, the effects, all of that good stuff in turn. But go ahead, Fuego, your thoughts.
Yeah, man, this is one that, just like the life that we're experiencing currently, everybody, it proves that the real world can be far scarier than anything that we imagine in the horror genre of fiction, whether it's, a movie, a book, comic book, whatever the hell it may be. And it disturbed me, and it really just, I had a bad time, but yet I was very just intrigued and enthralled, and it's so crazy, the aspect of cover-up that transpired with this, the amount of life lost based on arrogance and various other things. The acting is tremendous in it. The set design is, HBO, as Cecil and I were talking about the other day on a live stream for the news, they have set a precedence with their original programming long before Netflix came around, long before pretty much any other pay premium service was a thing, and they continue that in spades here. It genuinely disturbed me and made me really sad, but it's almost necessary viewing in this weird world that we're in right now.
I agree on pretty much all fronts there. I mean, it was an amazingly interesting viewing. I never knew the full story. I didn't know, I didn't know 20% of what I found out through this whole thing. I just knew the overall thing is that the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded, and there's been fallout ever since, and that's pretty much the long and short of what I knew. So now that I had no idea it was just one reactor of like 4 that exploded. It could have been so much worse, and yet it was still really awful.
And the sacrifice of life that saved more damage being done, like the guys marching to their deaths to make sure those other reactors didn't.
Guys going in nasty irradiated water, to miners having to dig completely naked because it's just straight too hot to dig where they need to dig in order to help solve the problem so that millions of more people don't die as a result of this. And the situation just escalates and escalates and escalates, but we'll get into it in specifics. Overall, we're obviously both really blown away by this series. I'm a little upset that it took me as long to watch it as it did, because it had a lot of buzz around it, almost Tiger King levels of buzz when it first dropped. And it took forever until I finally got HBO and threw it on, and man alive, it is a horror fan's nightmare, dream, so to speak, series. I mean, so let's get into it. Obviously, if you guys don't know the story, there is a nuclear power plant in Chernobyl in Russia, and it one day had one of its reactors completely explode and start leaking radiation everywhere. And a lot of the stuff that I didn't know that Fuego and I both found out is that there was a ton of cover-ups by the Russian government. There was guys on site willfully denying the evidence in front of them, willfully denying testimony from workers that had just come from that part of the plant saying, no, it's gone. And some guys going, no, I don't believe you. That can't be. And still operating for hours under those auspices. And when you find out at the end that it was just, like you said, pure arrogance, and it just cost millions and millions of, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of lives over the course of years,
if not more. I mean, we don't even know the exact numbers. I haven't calculated.
It's unquantifiable. Although Although Russia says it's what, 39 people is what their ultimate number count was.
Yeah, well, that was back during the days of the USSR, man, the Soviet Union and everything, and so denial was the big thing. And so that's another thing to keep in mind, is that this was when, you know, the United States and Russia and all of its encompassing Soviet Union and the USSR, it was like, you know, mutually assured destruction. And so they were just working on refining all of these different, you know, nasty things, you know, in the case of, you know, that inevitable conflict that thankfully never went down. Praise whatever Lord may be up there, or just, you know, I mean, cooler heads prevailing, whatever you believe in. But it's really, it's even sadder when you see like the personal aspect of it. Like that guy who leaves his wife at home when he goes late that night to go and check it out. And
You mean the fireman?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
goes to help. Yeah, he's a
he
fireman.
goes to help, and
he's assigned, and
she's a great actress from a movie, Wild Rose, that I adore. And then she ends up trying to find her husband, and he's like dying from radiation poisoning in the hospital, and
she just wants to see him, and
they won't even let her in.
They won't let her in, and they're like, "Trust me," and especially, "You're not pregnant, are you? Because that could be really bad if so." And just how that story goes, that was just utterly heartbreaking.
That one was crushing, man.
But not only that, the evolution of the guys affected by the radiation, which we'll get to in effect, but story-wise,
especially those exposed like very closely. I guess we'll get to that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the
Well, I mean,
effects
right.
aspect.
What you reminded me of is when the fire department are called in, they don't have any idea what's really happened. There's building rubble, and one guy just picks up a brick
by hand.
Just picks. No, he had his
Well,
glove
he had
on.
his glove on, but yeah, it
but he
can
just picks
easily
up a brick
get
because
right
it's a
through
part
that
of a
stuff.
building.
Yeah.
He has no idea. Picks his glove up, or picks it up with the glove, drops it, goes to work. Within like an hour, his hand, like his glove is burned through. His hand has burns on it, and then not long after that, it's like completely gone. He has to be like it is crazy what you find out. And so as the story continues, we meet a scientist that we actually meet at the very beginning. Of the series.
At the end of the story, it's one of those.
Right, exactly. It kind of goes back a little bit. And this actor is
I've seen him
he was
in a
the
number
key
of
bad
things.
guy in Fringe, and he's been in a lot of other things.
Yeah, I've seen him in some films as well.
I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but he's a really fantastic actor.
Yeah.
He and another actor that's been in a few movies as a character actor plays the Russian liaison, and they have to work together to try and keep a lid on everything while trying to solve all the problems.
Who was very
throughout the
skeptical
5-episode
of him
series.
initially, and they slowly find common ground, and then
Well,
the guy
I mean,
becomes,
at one point in like the third episode, he's like, "We're already dead. Like you and I only have like 5 years left.
Yeah.
Like we've already made our choice," and it like hits the other guy like, "Oh
Yeah.
wow."
Yeah,
Like,
because like depending upon how close you were to the exposure,
For
how
how long
you were there for it. I mean, these were all corresponding factors. That radiation is still there, everybody. I mean, they buried bodies, they've destroyed rubble, all these other things, but it's still there. It's just like Fukushima. That's going to be a problem for probably as long as the world is here, you know, at least to some extent. So it's frightening in its own distinctively real world way.
Yeah, it really is. And so that's what the name of the game is. The story tells how it all eventually gets wrapped up. How do they stop the leak? Because I didn't even realize it was a constant problem. There was all this radiation actively being thrown into the atmosphere.
And the fire was still burning, and
The
then
fire
trying
was
to
still
drop
burning,
the
yeah.
water on top
how
of it.
awesome was that?
And then they couldn't drop it in certain
they
ways
tried to fly it in a
because-
helicopter, and they accidentally fly right over it, and the radiation just melts the rotors, and the chopper just crashes.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God,
That's the kind
horrifying.
of life-ending power that was being developed, you know, I mean, it's happened here too. We have the Palo Verde nuclear power plant here in Arizona, for God's
And after
sake.
watching this,
You
I'm
know,
like,
it's
do
scared.
I want to live here? How much do I want to live here?
Yeah, man alive, it's scary stuff, and it's kind of close to Luke Air Force Base too,
I know,
which is even crazier.
Well, at
But
least that's close to
acting-
where they can scramble jets to defend it.
I guess, man.
But all right, so yeah, acting.
Acting is terrific in this.
Unbelievable.
Throughout,
Throughout,
100%.
not a weak link, not
Yeah,
a weak
yeah.
link.
HBO doesn't mess around, and you know, I mean, the guy who was really like just pushing forward the investigation, he is incredible, as you mentioned. But I was just as impressed with just the standoffishness and just unapologetic assholeness of the guy who was at the very beginning, who is the director of the plant, and he is in massive denial. And then even when he is on trial, and he's got white hair, he's dying from radiation poisoning, and he is just still as standoffish and just not willing to accept responsibility. That performance, I was like, wow, damn,
Good
was
actor.
that something, man.
Yeah, the acting is unparalleled. Like it's really, HBO just, you guys know HBO knocks it out of the park for the most part with their acting and production value, and this is absolutely no different. This was really, like, I hate to say it, but the dark side of me, the darkly curious side of me, wants them to do this for all the disasters. Like, tell me the story of all the horrible disasters.
I would be down.
I mean, from 9/11 to Pearl Harbor to, like, give me the breakdown, and I know we had a couple of 9/11 movies.
Japan,
Fukushima,
like I talked
exactly.
About,
give me all of that, because this is so entertaining. And again, I know it's not a nice thing. I know it's not something I should be saying is entertaining, but it's presented
enthralling
in such
and captivating.
Thank you. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, it totally
well,
is.
HBO wouldn't have made it if they didn't think it would be entertaining for people.
And it's also, it's really cool when you can be enthralled and entertained, but also informed, because just like you, I really did not know very much about this. I heard a little bit. I mean, I'm like a few years younger than you, so I remember hearing about it in the mid to late 80s whenever it transpired. But I didn't really know the extent of it, the full scale and scope of just lives lost and cover-ups and the horrors involved. So. And
lastly, we should touch on the effects, which, I mean, we've tapped on it a little bit, but I mean, from the from the swirling, burning white fire of the actual destroyed containment unit to the most horrific image in my mind from the whole series is when the lady goes to visit her firefighter husband in his last stage, and his skin is gone. It's just all this green tinted, slick under musculature, and just horrifying. And he can't move. He's just laying, and all he can move is his eyes, because anything else is completely stuck to the bedding.
He's
because
barely
he has
cognizant
no flesh.
She's there.
Barely, like, it's just, and she still holds his hand, and it's just the worst.
With a fact that which we don't want to spoil, but
when you find out, and I didn't know
sad.
that was what happened. If that's the case, that all of it gets focused in one area, I was like, that's horrifying.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That is horrifying. Yeah. So, guys, if you want a trip down horrific true life memory lane, then get yourselves, get a 30-day or 7-day trial of HBO and just watch it. I think, like I said, I think it's like 5 episodes, but it is worth, even if you just pay HBO 1 month of $15. This is going to be better than any number of movies you've seen in a long time.
And
each
episode is a mini movie, essentially, because
they're
it's
each
not
an
like it's not like a 40 minutes something. I think they're like an hour to an hour and 20. It's like an event series with.
It's like an hour to an hour 5. Yeah, okay. I was checking them out. Yeah.
Okay.
But the last one might have been a little bit longer. Yeah. Maybe 120.
Yeah, but just and shout out once more to just the valiant heroics of those who went down in to shut down those other 3 spots, because some of the practical that I didn't get to mention from them is that when you had that close of an exposure, like, those guys were dying as it happened. Like, it's not going to take months or years. Those guys were dying as they were trying to save that part of Russia, and they're starting to bleed out and they're starting to get weak, and just the makeup effects for that was really gross as well. But yeah, this is required viewing if you can stomach it, I guess.
Yeah, so for sure,
it's important.
So that's going to do it for our review of the Chernobyl series on HBO, you guys. Highly recommended. I do know that they do have it on DVD. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray, but you can order the set on DVD. So if that's if you'd rather do that than get HBO, I don't know why, because if you do HBO for a month, you can, watch all the other stuff they have on there, including Watchmen, which is worth your time. But
yeah, that's the one.
With Chernobyl, you can at least rewatch it beyond that 7-day window or whatever. So it's make the call, but whatever you do, find a way to watch it if you haven't yet, because it's incredible. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you very much to our patrons for supporting the channel. The link to that is in the description box. You can actually pick movies for us to review, do commentaries for, that kind of thing. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And always gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.